Ho, 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 ho. Welcome to the Clark the Shark Show, 1-800-449-8255. And have I got an album for you? Wow. You talk about great albums back in the 80s that really influenced Clark the Shark. You won't find more of one than this one. The Jesus and Mary Chain, Psycho Candy from 1985. And I remember being, 20 years old. I was out of high school. And I bought this when it was new. It was like a new vinyl. I think I bought it somewhere down in Redondo. I'm not sure if it was Go Boy, but I did not buy this at the Torrance Rhodium. No way. I bought this brand new. And I was counted as one of the Billboard, the charts are all fake and it's all payola, but, if this album sold gold or platinum or 100,000, Clark the Shark was one of them at 1-800-449-8255. And welcome today to all of you to the Clark the Shark Show from the Golden EIB Sharkraphone, where today the Wolfman Jack on crack, Clark the Shark, is going to talk about the Jesus and Mary Chain, Psycho Candy. Now, it's a hugely distorted, noisy, grungy album. It's way before Nirvana. It's way before the 90s. And it's pretty much before me, Clark the Shark, at 1-800-449-8255. And I don't know. Is it better, worse, or equal to Joy Division or, the Smiths or The Cure or all those bands, back in the day, or punk rock? I remember a lot of people on the street in Redondo Beach and Torrance, and they didn't like this. They're like, we don't like that emo, whatever that crap is, But I took this home to 251 Paseo de Gracia in Redondo Beach, downstairs down in the dungeon of my room, and I played it. I gave it a chance, and I was like, wow. This distorted wall of noise and feedback and all these amazing songs. Is it a bit repetitious and boring? Does it get kind of trivial? Yeah, just like Joy Division and lots of bands back in the 80s. I mean, come on, this isn't the songwriting of like the Who, Tommy, or or the Beatles. It's not that. It's not meant to be. This is noisy, experimental music in the 80s. And that's how Clark the Shark was with Greenhouse Effect. I mean, we may have had a bit more melody, but, we like to make noisy feedback, and it definitely, we got a little bit of something from this. I was influenced. And when I wanted to go record my solo demos and do a bunch of feedback, and rip holes into the speakers downstairs at 251, I kind of did it in honor of The Who and Iggy Pop and the Stooges and Black Flag, but I kind of did it in honor of this 1985 noise rock classic that I simply can't deny. Me, Clark the Shark, the punker, metaler, grunger, the dirty kid who doesn't dress well, and, I always got the long, scraggly hair and the beard, or, I look just like I came from a gas station. Well, I dressed the way I was treated. And it seems I found kinship, with this band after my own heart. Psycho Candy, the Jesus and Mary Chain, and the fabulous Reed brothers. I looked up on their story, and I really was like, it's more interesting, these guys, than The Cure, or maybe not as interesting as Joy Division or, Black Flag or all that, but it was cool, dude. I like this shit. And I definitely was one of the kids on the street in Torrance and Redondo Beach who listened to this album and, you know, making noise, making grunge, making feedback and recording it. It comes from The Who back in 65, sure. But then later on in the 70s, 80s, there were some bands coming along, you know, that were resurrecting the noisy, noise rock, grungy, you know, feedback laden shit. And, you know, you gotta love them or hate them. You gotta respect them. The Jesus and Mary Chain, 5 stars, baby, for this. Definitely. And of course, Just Like Honey, the classic song. Living End is really good. This whole album's killer. It's, what drug would I say it is, you know? Uh, it's kind of, I don't know, man, like drinking, maybe marijuana, or, you know, you're not going to do speed to this. I know that. You're probably not going to do coke. At 1-800-449-8255, the Clark the Shark Show. You know, you might just listen to this sober at 1-800-449-8255, and I think you're going to really enjoy it. You Trip Me Up. I love it. And, you know, just a bunch of this stuff. Good stuff. Noisy feedback. And it meant a lot to me. 1-800-449-8255. Did this mean to me what like Black Flag and a Noise Agency and the Minutemen, what they meant to me? I don't know, you know, but in some weird way this meant more because I wanted to be in a band, you know, even more. I mean, I was in a band before this, playing, you know, blues or whatever, punk rock, or I don't know, man. But then I wanted to get in a band that did feedback, made noise in the background, clanking in the background with the guitars, and kicking over your drums or smashing your drums or something. And, you know, when I played with Steve Stepanian in Redondo Beach, we were playing the blues, you know, rock and roll, standard rock and roll. And I think I began to get a little too weird for him about 1985, 86. And that's when him and I went separate ways. He moved up to Grass Valley, and I started jamming with Phil Keegan and Rick Carmody, and we formed, you know, just the amazing three-piece, and the rest is history, baby, at 1-800-449-8255. The Greenhouse Effect, with all that amazing shit. And I don't think Phil intended to be a grunge god, you know, in 1986, 87, 88. But he always struggled, you know, plugging the Strat into the Fender. And he couldn't really control the feedback for some reason. And he would just crank it up really loud. And of course, I would crank up the drums. Ted would crank up the bass. And we made feedback, maybe accidental or otherwise, I'm not sure. But we would have the most noisy jams where there was just tons of loud, brazen, just abrasive feedback in that room down there at down by El Retiro Park at Ted's house down on Vista del Parque. But when we would go play shows, the same thing would happen. Flipper would plug in that Fender. I think he had a Fender Twin Reverb. And it was just, there was so much feedback coming out of it. And we were just so loud. And we would play shows with all these, we had to play with punk bands. Or we would play with anybody. Sometimes we would play with metal bands. But everybody would say, you guys, you Greenhouse Effect guys, are so noisy. There's just so much feedback. And I would just say, well, I love the Jesus and Mary chain. Psycho Candy, baby. At 1-800-449-8255, the Clark the Shark Show. And of course, my vinyl collection wouldn't be complete without this album. And yeah, man, I recommend today in 2023, if you're a young person and you want to know about the 1990s, but way, way before the 1990s, way before, you got to buy albums like this one. And you hear this feedback and all this noise. I mean, the songwriting is kind of mediocre. There are some good songs here. There's some catchy shit, but the feedback and noise that's just all over this album, it's so annoying. At 1-800-449-8255, but you're gonna love it on the Clark the Shark Show from the golden EIB Sharkraphone, the Wolfman Jack on crack, Clark the Shark. I want you to buy this record because back in 1985, I tried to get my friend Carl to listen to this, and I'll never forget, I brought this record over to his house and we played it, and he's just like, Clark, it's too noisy. And I'm like, check this out though, man. And he's like, it doesn't have any melody. And I'm like, come on, man, that first song, it's got melody, baby. It's got it all. But when I would, smoke a joint or something and drink a few beers, this was fucking cool to listen to. Maybe not as cool as The Who or Led Zeppelin or the Beatles, but there was something about this indeed. 1-800-449-8255. I hope you young kids out there who are born in 2001, born in 2003, learn about this album, support this album, and buy this album. You can listen to The Cure, and you can listen to The Smiths, and you can listen to all that other shit if you want. But this is better. This is the album I really want you to listen to. That's coming straight from the heart of Clark the Shark and my vinyl collection down there at 251 Paseo de Gracia. You guys want to know what's sad? 251 is gone. I drove over there, and the famous Spanish house where all the dysfunction took place that formed Clark the Shark in the womb, that created the greenhouse effect, it's gone. My stupid sister sold that house. And it was just a big tragedy back in 2011, 2012. My brother Greg died, and it was just really sad. But anyway, someone came along and they tore down the house. 251 is gone, man. You can ask Bill Watt from Prop 13, and he'll tell you when he goes back to visit that street. Clark the Shark from the Greenhouse Effect, his famous house is gone at 1-800-449-8255. There's some big mansion there now that some new guy came along and built. And it's so sad, man. My house is gone. And it's because of my stupid sister Mary and my stupid brother Greg that place where I grew up, I don't have fond memories of 251. Matter of fact, I fucking hate to look back at that place, but I look back at 251 for the record collection, baby. All the vinyls that I would buy down at Go Boy Records in Redondo or at the Rhodium in Torrance. All those memories are gone. When they tore down 251 Paseo de Gracia, that Spanish house, where I just remember where I had to live with Bert, I had to live with Doug, Huck. I had to live with Jeff. I had to live around those crazy fucking people. But I took solace. Downstairs in the dungeon, down in my room, I would close, my door was like a curtain. It was like, I took a bed sheet and I turned it into a door and I nailed it up. Kind of like when you put towels over a window. And then in my room, my room was just closed off from the world. And I would just sit in there, man. I would listen to The Clash or The Who or Black Flag or whatever, Iron Maiden, or, I would just sit in my fucking room. And that's why I know so much about music. I didn't have a lot of friends, and I didn't want any. I just wanted friends, baby, like the Jesus and Mary Chain Psycho Candy. That was my friend, and that's all I needed. And I could just chill down in my room at 251. Bert would come down there. He had to go through my room to get to Bert's room. And of course, later when my sister Kathy died, Hagen and Forrest came. When I moved out and went to Bel Air, they went into that room, the middle room downstairs at 251. And then, everyone pretty much moved out, and the downstairs became Bert, Foo, and Hagen. Now you can imagine how that motley crew all got along down there. Hagen Kelly, of course, who for a while was the famous surfer, the Frosted Flakes kid. Well, man, there's stories where they came there in 1990 when Kathy died, and I was up in Bel Air by then, or, living in Playa del Rey, and man, it's just sad to look back at 251 and think that it's gone. Such a famous house, just, for Paul from the Jades, and just, man, all the police come in there and shit. It's awesome, dude. It's fucking crazy. I love it. It's dysfunctional. And it's what gets you to listen to albums like the Jesus and Mary Chain, Psycho Candy, baby. And you will become a punk rocker, and you will become a metaler, and you will become just a fucking douchebag who is just retarded. But you're going to love it, baby. Someday I want to write a book about it at 1-800-449-8255 on the fabulous Clark the Shark Show, where I'm talking about this fabulous album of it's just a wall of noise. It's like a Phil Spector wall of feedback coming to you from the Reed Brothers. The Jesus and Mary Chain, Psycho Candy. And Carl, wherever you are, bro, today in 2023, I hope you will give this album a chance, my friend. Crank it up, bro, and listen to it. I hope. Come on, dude. Do it for Clark the Shark at 1-800-449-8255. The fabulous Clark the Shark Show from the golden EIB Sharkerphone. And listen to all these songs, because this really is where Racers, Precarious, Waiting for Your Love to Fail, Ben is Dead, Star, Virus Osiris, all of it comes from albums like this. Maybe from Joy Division, maybe from The Who, maybe from The Clash, maybe from Black Flag. But there is something to be said for the Jesus and Mary Chain, 1985, Psycho Candy, baby. And I hope you buy this album. And that's coming to you from Clark the Shark at 1-800-449-8255. And I'm out of here, baby. Peace.